So my name is Juanan Estival, and today we are going to be talking about which is the Google approach for how to use generative AI in a very special use case, which is the customer care, in particular in the contact center industry, right? So we have been working in the contact center industry for a while with a with a portfolio of, call it contact center AI, which has mainly 4 different levels of products and services. First one is Contact Center AI Platform, which is our approach in Google to provide contact center services in the cloud. So we have a fully omni-channel platform in which you can define your strategies into the contact center about what to do with your voice interaction, your chat interaction, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, social media, you name it, right? So then what we have been working in the last year is about how to implement generative AI in this business industry, right? Because the generative AI has been here for the last year, but what we have found is that the business people, it can find a little tricky to implement the generative AI into their businesses. Why? Because they need to collect all the data, they need to parse the data, they need to chunk the data, they need to create embeddings. With those embeddings, they need to choose a database, vector database for store that information, finally create an endpoint, and then write a prompt and use that endpoint just for the inference. What we have been working on is just to simplify that process in a point-and-click product that we call Agent Builder, that we can use the generative AI without the need to have a full team of artificial intelligence engineers or even, I don't know, programmers or coders in Python, right? So let me show you how. So we have Dialogflow, which is the product that we have to provide self-service, but it's not the only product in which we can provide generative AI feature. So when someone eventually escalates to a live agent, so we are able as well to provide generative AI feature just to help the agent to solve the customer issue. And finally, we have Contact Center Insights, which is our speech analytics tool in which we can extract information from chat conversation and from, as well, voice conversation by making the transcription and getting insights that could be the summary, the sentiment analysis, the entity extraction, so on and so forth, right? So let me show you this, how it's working in a live environment, right? So first of all, so what we need, it will be the data, right? So for that, we have Agent Builder, which are going to help us in the process of creating this retrieval augmented generation approach strategy, right? So we can create a data store, and we can choose whatever is the source of your information. Could be your full website, or could be something that you have on Google BigQuery. Could be PDFs that you upload to your cloud storage. But the beauty of this is that you can use as well third-party products, like could be Jira or Confluence, or it could be Salesforce or SharePoint or ServiceNow, Slack, and more are coming, right? So in this case, we are going to keep it simple. So we are going to use a website. So what we are going to do is just click on website content. We are going to select advanced website indexing, right? And then we are going to point to our URL. Like, for example, in this case, I am going to use store.google.com, which is the website that we have just to purchase devices. That could be the tablets, the Pixel tablets, the Pixel phone, the Google Nest, whatever is the Google product, right? So next step will be just to give a name to this data store, like I don't know, DTW. And now we are ready. So this retrieval augmented generation process is being created for you behind the scenes, and in about 4 hours, you are going to have the full data store already created and ready for use. So now, what you are going to have just after that process, you are going to have a Dialogflow project that can point to that data store. So if you go to the start page and you go to the data store, you will see here that we have the data store already created, and we can start experimenting with the generative AI. We can, even in this interface, we can start with testing the agent and say something like, I don't know, what is a pixel? And we can define if the response is good enough, right? Once you have your project finished and ready for production, we have as well a way to publish here this project, and these are going to give you the snippet in HTML that you can paste in your website, and then what you will have is a button like this one in which you can interact with the website. Let me show you that in a website, right? So now here we have our store website, we have our chat widget, and we can start chatting with the system. We can say again, what is a pixel? And as the system has been trained, let's say, into our data, obviously, it is not going to say that a pixel is a point into the screen. So what it's doing is just looking into the contextual information, into the grounded data, and it is giving us the information that the pixel is a line of a smartphone owned by Google. As it's an artificial intelligence that is always keeping the context, I can say something like what colors are available. And I don't need to specify that I want to know the colors of the pixel, because it's on the context. The system continues with that conversation and is giving me accurate information about the colors available on the Pixel Pro. What is totally new on this kind of technologies in generative AI is that they are very good, into the conversation when the customer digress into the conversation. So, for example, someone can say something like, "Wait a minute. Someone is knocking the door." So typically what will happen in a rule-based or intent-based chatbot is that this will break the flow because the system, you haven't created a specific rule for that situation. However, here, the fallback assistant is using generative AI as well, so it is giving the proper answer. It say, "Sure, I will wait." So now I safely say I am back. And what are going to happen is that the chatbot are going to retrieve the conversation in the point that has been finished, right? So we have here the conversation. So now, what about if I want to escalate to a human being? Where are going to be using the generative AI then? Yes, I am going to show you. So now I want to talk to an agent. And then this conversation are going to move from the self-assisted part to the human-to-human conversation. I am writing a summary that are going to be presented as well to the agent, so the agent doesn't need to read the full conversation that has happened in the past. So the only thing that they have to do is just to read, the summary. So if I go to the CCAI platform, now we have here that a new chat is incoming, right? So if I click on this new chat, I'm going to have all the historical conversation and as well the summary, as we can see here, right? Now, where we are using here the generative AI. So because training the agents, it is difficult, it's a long process. One thing that we can do is use the same data store just to help to the agent to solve the customer issue. Let me show you how. So if I go to the chat interface, again, I am the customer, and I am going to ask for the international rates, okay? Which are your international rate. So here, if we come back to the agent interface, we will see that there is a red bullet here that is giving me accurate help regarding the international coverage of the Google product and services. So me as an agent, it saves a lot of time, and not only save time, but I am able to give as well the accurate information. So that is Agent Assist. So the third scenario in which we can use as well the generative AI is by analyzing the conversation, the historical conversation that we have in our company. Doesn't matter if they are voice calls, if they are chats, if they are social interactions, or if they are WhatsApps. So if we go to the Contact Center Insights, which is the third product of the portfolio that I have shown in the slide, there is a couple of things that we can do here. Even if the interaction hasn't been recorded or has been taken by Google, is in your own contact center now, you can go to the topic modeling, you can upload those conversations, and then you will be able to see all the topics of those conversations. This is a very good starting point about what you should develop the first, just to automate your call, just to reduce the traffic of the calls or interaction that are arriving to your agents. But more than that, if you go to the Conversation Hub, you will have accurate information regarding, I don't know, for example, this one, something like sentiment analysis. You are going to be able to, we analyze the call here, we are going to be able to have the summary, the topic modeling, and as well some custom highlights that I want to look for. For example, how many people they are mentioning that they want to leave our company to go for the competence because they are cheaper, right? So we are going to have that information so we can react to that situation and just to keep our customer, right? So here we can see that the customer is querying about the smartphone. In our last conversation, we have the positive sentiment, we have the negative sentiment, and we have the full transcription of the call. So summarizing just for the takeaways, again, so what we have showcased in this video is how to use the Contact Center AI platform, our Contact Center as a Service, in combination with Dialogflow to create the self-service assistance, with Agent Assist to help the agents, and finally, to have the insights just to help us with historical information. So thank you.